Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back for your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Ripple and XRP as well as the vast majority of finance. So let's just dive in and let's start off with the US dollar. So we are seeing a little bit of an impulsive move off of the bottom down here, which I was expecting. This has been my view for a very long time on the dollar ever since we started to reject back up here in March, or I should say in the beginning of March. And since then, we have played into my idea on what's going to happen with the dollar. Now, either we get this nice impulsive move back up to local resistance, which will also lead the market down. I've been looking at Bitcoin. I've been actually waiting for us to retest around like the 24K region. Let's see if we get that. But after that, I do believe that the US dollar will reject off this local resistance and end up actually losing this significant fib level, which once we do, this is, in my opinion, going to cause the market to surge. Now, after that, I do expect this to lose the 200 weekly EMA at about 99. Last time that we did this, going all the way back to July of 2020, it sent the market on a massive run, aka we had alt season. Now, when we do lose this, it's going to take some time, by the way, but when we do lose this, it is going to be a big moment in time for crypto. But also, what are the catalysts behind this? Well, one thing that I've been mainly focused on is what's happening around the world, especially even within the US, around banks and things like that. Now, as we do look at that, I want to lead to this video here. Now, full transparency, I think that this video is a little scripted. It does sound a little scripted, but I do think that there's a few things that we can pinpoint from this. Now, listen closely real quick, and then I will talk about it after.
Generational wealth. That's what's at stake today, John, because we're just moments away from what I believe will be the biggest crypto event of this decade. And there is nothing that can stop it. And that is what's so amazing about it.
Well, I'll tell you what's amazing is that right off the bat, you're starting with a big prediction about this upcoming event.
Here's the thing. I'm not gazing into my crystal ball about this, John. I want to be very clear about that. This event will happen. It is 100% guaranteed to take place.
But let me stop you right there, Tika. I know you met him, but how can you guarantee that something will happen?
It's a great question. A few years ago, again, I personally met this man who's about to flip the switch and trigger this panic. He's a crypto billionaire, one of the most important men in the crypto world. And developers who are involved in this project, they have confirmed this is happening by as early as the end of this month. That means they could flip the switch at any moment they choose. They're actually running the final test as we speak. John, this is the final test right before they pull that trigger. That means we could wake up tomorrow morning and read about it in the headlines.
Yeah, see, I knew this was going to be timely. I just knew it. So this panic that you're talking about could start as soon as tomorrow.
Exactly. And we only have one shot here, because I'm not talking about a Bitcoin halving that happens every 4 years. I mean, if you miss a Bitcoin halving, it's not great, but at least 4 years later, you get another shot at it. I'm talking about an event that will only happen one time. Once they flip the switch, John, there's no going.
So yeah, it does sound pretty scripted in my opinion, but I do think that we are about to see this overnight event. Now, a lot of people will play into that and pinpoint it back to XRP doing this, XRP doing that. What this overnight event is a run on the banks. We started to see the warning signs recently, but what we are really looking at is the banks and their solvency. We do see over here the banks are insolvent. Most US banks are technically near insolvency, and hundreds are already fully insolvent. Now, yes, this is an opinion, but there are facts to back this. When you go look at the FDIC, when you go look at, the Kansas City Fed, all of these reports down here, all of these are an insight on the quarterly reports, the insights on what's happening around the big banks. And we do see here the banks are insolvent. We should have learned to disrupt bankers after the 2000 or distrust, bankers after the 2008 crisis. Back then, they used complex language to hide the simple fact that the mortgages were bad. And today, they do it to hide the fact that the money is gone. Not in one bank, in all the banks. And they knew months ago. Don't believe me? Take it from the Fed and the FDIC themselves. And here's a few breakdowns of this. So here we have November of 2022. FDIC worried about growing unrealized losses in U.S. banks' bond portfolios. Then, and by the way, there was a total loss of $423.58 billion during the first 6 months of the year, according to the August analysis by S&P Global Market Intelligence. A more recent analysis found that the 15 largest U.S. banks' AOCI losses tumbled again in the third quarter, falling $33.80 billion subsequently. Then also, over here, we have the Federal Reserve weekly remittances to Treasury. Look at this. This is absolutely massive. Massive. And also, unrealized gains, losses on investment securities. This does not seem like everything is all good here. This is a big deal. And then also, unrealized losses lowering tangible equity capital. Banks are hemorrhaging money right now. They're insolvent and they're hemorrhaging money. And I do think that the Fed themselves is scrambling to put everything back together. But guess what? There's no fixing this. There is absolutely no fixing this. I believe that we will see a run on the banks. A lot of people continue to call me crazy, but things are going to get a lot worse around the banking system. Listen, we've over-leveraged funds for so long. And now outside of the US, we are seeing big events happening, which I'll talk about in this video as well. But let's go real quick and check on what's happening within the US and look at these government entities talking about crypto. Yes, she's talking about Bitcoin in this video. This is Elizabeth Warren. If you guys remember, she just started their anti-crypto campaign. This is what she's running with. But listen closely to this.
With Bitcoin, there's no thing that backs it up. And that's what makes it different. It's just belief. You and I assess. You assess the value is going to go down. I assess it's going to go up, and therefore I buy.
So it's more like this artwork.
No, because at the end of the day, I can hang that thing on my wall.
Right.
And I can enjoy it, or I can throw darts at it.
You could sell it for money.
Sure you can. I mean, there are features about it that are the same, but it's not the same. And look, one of the things we have to remember about, there are a lot of things that come within this crypto world. So for example, we could be talking about, instead of Bitcoin, we could be talking about digital currency. Now that's something very different.
I think that's different too. I buy that. I accept that.
That's right, because that's a government-backed electronic transfer. And it can be denominated in dollars, it could be denominated in euros, it could be denominated in some new language that's made up. But that has something that backs it up. It has a government that says, if at the end of the day there's a run on this stuff, everybody wants theirs out, the United States government promises there will be something to back it up. And that's what banks are about. There'll be somebody there to back it up. But with Bitcoin, that's not the case.
And again, I love these arguments. There's nothing to back Bitcoin. There's nothing to back crypto. What about the US dollar? Right? The only thing holding the US dollar together is Saudi Arabia with the petrodollar. But as we know, guess what? The petrodollar deal is finished. There's nothing holding the US dollar together. There's no value tied to the US dollar. It's all debt and false promises. And when we look at things happening, right? Going back to April 1st, yesterday. This week, we have seen the following. 1. Saudi Arabia agreed to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a dialogue partner. 2. China and Brazil made a deal to ditch the dollar for trade. 3. China and France completed the first liquefied natural gas trade settled in yuan. 4. Asian nations consider dropping the US dollar, euro, yen, and British pound from financial transactions. 5. We learned that the BRICS reserve currency could be potentially backed by gold and other commodities, such as rare earth elements. This all has happened within 7 days. At the same time, the world is beginning to grasp that the BRICS bloc is going to expand in a big way shortly. People act surprised about Saudi Arabia working closely with China. There have been many signposts, including in 2021, when Saudi Aramco, that China's energy security would be its highest priority for the next 50 years. At the beginning of the year, the world was shocked to learn that Saudi Arabia was willing to engage in discussions regarding trade conducted in currencies beyond the confines of the US dollar. Buy the ticket and take the ride. I want you guys to understand right now that the US dollar, as we know it, is going to collapse. And when it does, banks are going to go with it. And when all of that happens, well, guess what we're left with? We're left with society going absolutely mad. This is why I've told you guys to make sure that you are preparing outside of just financial instruments. You can't just be buying crypto. You can't just be buying gold and silver, physical gold and silver. You also have to be buying food, water. And a lot of people think that I'm crazy for saying weaponizing yourself. Listen, when things really start to go crazy, you need to make sure that you can protect you and your family. Because when things really go crazy, I'm telling you right now, like what we see right now, still things are intact slightly, but things are starting to break. The cracks are starting to show. And when we see the US dollar really start to lose its value, it's finished. India as well. India is getting in on the action. The Commerce Secretary of India said the country is prepared to conduct trade in Indian rupees with nations experiencing currency failure or a shortage of dollars. He says this will help disaster-proof them. India is prioritizing efforts to enhance the rupee payment system. Reminder, so far, 8 countries have opened an SRVA to facilitate trade in the Indian rupee. And here you guys have all of them. In the late 2022, the RBI deputy governor said that the country has to take risk for rupee internationalization for India to progress to be an economic superpower. Currently, India and the UAE are collaborating on developing digital currencies. Also, they are exploring the development of a mechanism that efficiently mitigates exchange rate risk in the proposed rupee-based trade between India and the United Arab Emirates. We also discovered that India and Saudi Arabia are collaborating to establish the investment bridge and are exploring bilateral investment exchanges. They are making big moves. Yes, all away from the US dollar. And then also, we just seen that Chinese yuan surpassed the euro to become Brazil's second largest currency in foreign reserves. And then tied to this, we also seen Japan has broken the pact with the US and its allies and has bought Russian oil above the price cap. This is the biggest, I'm telling you guys right now, this is the biggest event in history, and it's all happening so fast. This is nearly overnight. And what we will see overnight as well is the US dollar lose its reserve currency status. And when that happens, well, you can kiss the dollar goodbye, because there's nothing in value tied to the dollar. It's basically all worthless nonsense. All debt tied to false promises. This is why I laugh when they take these stabs at crypto, saying that there's nothing tied to its own imagination. Well, guess what? The dollar has been that for decades now. And these nations are finally moving away from it. They see the issue with the US dollar. They see the issue with the US government. They see a problem with the ones that are in power. Just in Saudi Arabia, Russia, UAE, Iraq, Kuwait, and Oman, and also Algeria to cut oil production output until the end of 2023. So far, we do see the total OPEC plus cut pledges now stand at 3.66 million BPD, as well as oil could jump $10 a barrel, analyst says. And so far that what we see is Saudi Arabia and other OPEC plus oil producers on Sunday announced further oil output cuts of around 1.16 million barrels per day in a surprise move that analysts said would cause an immediate rise in prices, and the United States called inadvisable. I want you guys to understand that we are seeing an economic war brewing, and it is centered on oil. It is centered on moving away from the US dollar as trade. I mean, right now we are seeing massive moves happening, and this is a big one. This is an extremely large event. I'm telling you, everyone needs to wake up and smell the roses, because what we are seeing is a huge change happening financially. The entire global economy is moving away from the US dollar, and we are now seeing a completely new system brewing. This is a big deal. This is a major deal. And going back to the US dollar, yeah, sure, we might be seeing a slight rise here, but in my opinion, as we look at the US dollar, we will see either, and let me go back to the 3-month span here. So I've been looking at this on the macro. One thing that I noted in recent videos is the pattern on the US dollar. Look at this. These three, what do you see here? A high, a lower high, a lower high. This has gone on since we made that high back in 85, and I even included this in a recent video. This has been going on for over 13,971 days. Think about that. Take a step back and think about that logically. This has been going on for 38 years. 38 years of a downtrend on the US dollar. This is going to continue. We will continue to see the US dollar lose its value. Time and time again. Look at what we've made. If I flip this, so if we invert this entire chart, look at this. Going all the way back again to 78. Here's a low. Here's a low. Here's the recent low, going all the way back to 2008. And yes, we haven't made a lower low yet, but guess what? In time, we have. Going all the way back to 78. We've been making lower lows, and guess what? Lower highs. This is not good. And with all the events recently around the US dollar and major dominance being taken away from the US, I highly advise everyone to, one, get your money out of banks. I seen somebody comment on a video recently, telling me it's not easy for everyone to get their money out of the banks. You keep money in the bank just to cover debts, bills, whatever you need it for. But outside of that, you want to make sure that you either have, one, physical gold and silver. I do think that holding physical cash as well is far better than having money in a bank. But also you should be buying crypto, you should be buying food, water. I mean, things that are tangible, because right now it is so unpredictable what is going to happen next. And I do believe that we will see overnight devaluations like we've seen recently around some fiat currencies. Things are going to change rapidly. And with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys have more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. So it's up to you all. Have a beautiful day or a beautiful night, or if you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.